Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Today is day 29 of the readings of the 252 Vaishnava stories. And 252 Vaishnava disciples of Sri Gosaiji. We were on Varta, number 8, and the story of Madhav Das, a Kshatriya who lived in Kabul, and continuing that with part 1. Madhav Das lived in Kabul. He was the recipient of great grace and an accomplished Vaishnava. With Sri Gosaiji's blessing, Srinathji would grace Madhav Das with his holy sight. Madhav Das experienced the pastimes of the Lord at all the periods of the daily Seva. Such a great grace did Srinathji shower upon Madhav Das. Madhav Das lived in Kabul, so was accustomed to wearing the same types of clothes as the inhabitants of that place. Any Vaishnava who happened to come there could not know that Madhav Das was a Vaishnava. He had a cloth shop. Many days later, sent by the chief minister for some work, Rupa Murari Das came to Kabul. He went to the market to purchase some supplies. He looked for a Vaishnava shop, but everyone there looked the same. After that, on the road, Rupa Murari Das saw Madhav Das standing in his shop, twirling the end of his uparana, or scarf. Rupa Murari Das stopped and stood there. When Madhav Das stopped twirling the uparana, Rupa Murari Das went into his shop and inquired, "Who are you?" He did not recognize Madhav Das to be a Vaishnava. Madhav Das and Rupa Murari Das told each other their names. Murari Das asked Madhav Das whose disciple he was, and he replied that he was a disciple of Sri Gosaiji. Rupa Murari was delighted. In turn, Madhav Das asked Rupa Murari Das the same question, and he said, "I am a Kshatriya and also a disciple of Sri Gosaiji." Madhav Das was overjoyed and the two embraced each other. Having greeted him with Jai Sri Krishna, Madhav Das invited Rupa Murari Das to sit in his shop. There he asked how Sri Gosaiji was, and Rupa Murari Das told him all the news. Rupa Murari Das then asked Madhav Das why he had been standing and twirling the end of his scarf. Madhav Das replied that, with Sri Gosaiji's grace, Srinathji came there every day and granted him his holy sight. Rupa Murari Das again asked about the uparana. Madhav Das explained that at that particular moment it had been the time for the evening lights ceremony, and he was celebrating this by twirling the end of his scarf. When the arati was over, I bowed down to him and then sat down. Hearing all this, Rupa Murari Das was astonished. He thought to himself, "This Madhav Das is most fortunate. He lives here, and Srinathji lives 1,000 miles away, but he still grants his holy sight here itself. If this is true, then there is no end to Madhav Das's great good fortune." Rupa Murari Das, still pleasantly surprised, asked Madhav Das, "What was Srinathji wearing today?" Madhav Das replied, "Today Srinathji's dress was blue. Shri Balakrishnaji adorned Srinathji." Madhav Das continued to describe all of Srinathji's ornaments. Rupa Murari Das wrote down the date and the colour and the name of the son of Sri Gosaiji who had performed that adornment, Seva. Madhav Das then invited Rupa Murari Das to grace his home by coming there. Rupa Murari Das positioned one of his men to look after Madhav Das's shop, and they both went back to Madhav Das's home. Madhav Das requested Rupa Murari Das to do his cooking there itself. "I shall bring fresh pots and a fresh earthenware water pot." Rupa Murari Das said that Madhav Das's pots and vessels would be perfectly acceptable to him, and that Madhav Das should not bother to get new ones. Thereafter, Rupa Murari Das bathed and cooked and made the offerings to the Lord. Then he called the other Vaishnava from Madhav Das's shop, accepted the offerings back as prasad, and the two of them enjoyed partaking of that prasad. Afterwards, when he returned to his camp, Rupa Murari Das wrote a letter to Srinathji's priest, Ram Dasji, telling him of all the happenings, and sent it off with one of the men. The letter reached Ram Dasji. He proceeded to write down the details of that day's seva and the name of the son of Sri Gosaiji who had performed it, and sent it back to Murari Das. The information tallied. Rupa Murari Das began to praise Madhav Das, saying, "Oh, this Vaishnava is most blessed. He lives in Kabul, but his heart is in Vraja. He must be the luckiest man alive. Sri Gosaiji has truly blessed him with such divine vision. By the grace of the Lord, he has the joy of such visions every day. This Kabul is such a distant country and such a sinful country, but Srinathji still comes here and grants him his holy sight. There is no good enough way to describe his great fortune." Bhav Prakash. This story explains the principle that country of residence, time and karma cannot impede a Vaishnava's devotion. Wherever a Vaishnava's Sri Thakurji resides, that place is the best place for that Vaishnava to reside. Why, even in a country full of barbarians, the Lord could give his experience to his own people. Therefore, Vaishnavas should take exclusive shelter in their seva to the Lord. Part 1 continued. Madhav Das had taken the name initiation from Sri Gosaiji in Haridwar. Before that, Madhav Das had never seen Gokul and Sri Vrindavan. However, after being initiated by Sri Gosaiji, he was able to have the sight of all these places. Then he returned to his place in Kabul. It was that Sri Gosaiji graced him, and Srinathji began to grant him his holy sight. Sri Gosaiji used his power to establish all the Lord's divine pastimes in his heart, and Madhav Das began to see everything with this divine vision. Thus concludes Varta 8, the story of Madhav Das, who was the recipient of Sri Gosaiji's great grace. There is really no end to his story. Continuing with Varta number 9. The story of Harji Kotari, Bhaila Kotari's nephew who lived in Rajnagar, Asaruva. Harji is a devotee with a sattvic disposition. In the eternal Leela, his name is Surangi, who manifests from Chitra and is therefore a form of her divine loving sentiment. Harji was born into Beni Kotari's family in Gujarat. Beni Kotari is one of 3 brothers. The way in which he came to be one of Sri Acharyaji's disciples had been told in the story of Narahari Sannyasi. His 2 other brothers, Bhaila Kotari and Jaita Kotari, became disciples of Sri Gosaiji. Once Sri Gosaiji pilgrimaged to Dwarka. On the way to Rajnagar, he arrived in Beni Kotari's village. There they set up camp in a garden. Beni Kotari was not at home, and so Harji's mother brought him to have the sight of Sri Gosaiji. He was 6 years old at the time. Harji's mother requested Sri Gosaiji to accept Harji as his disciple. Knowing Harji to be Beni's son, he graced him by giving him the name initiation and then Brahma Sambandh. Afterwards, Sri Gosaiji fed his leftovers to Harji with his own hand. As he ate the prasad, Harji had the experience of Sri Acharyaji's birth. His voice manifested beautifully, and he immediately began to sing a lovely pad to his mother, Rag Dhanashri. O Ma, the Lord Sri Vallabhdev has appeared in the house of Sri Lakshman, and the congratulatory songs are being sung most pleasantly in this early morning auspicious time. O Ma, many ladies of great good fortune have gathered to sing songs full of loving welcome. O Ma, Brahmins are singing the Vedas, thus giving lovely blessings. O Ma, the courtyard has been laid with pearls and bards are singing praises. O Ma, the Dundabi drums are sounding out in every house and handfuls of flowers are showering down. O Ma, generous donations are being given to the poor and men and ladies are being given new clothes. O Ma, most blessed is his mother Elamagaru, whose every wish has been fulfilled. O Ma, now every day is filled with the wealth of happiness. Thus sings the joyous poet Sri Hari Jivan. Hearing this song, Sri Gosaiji was very pleased with Harji. He gave him his chewed pan leaf. Thereafter, Sri Gosaiji left that place and passed through Rajnagar on the way to Dwarka. He stayed there for some days, returned to Rajnagar, and from there he went to Adel. So we will take rest now from this story and tomorrow continue with the rest of the story of Harji Kotari. It's Varta number 9 in the 252. It's day 29. So, आज के आनंद की जय हो. जय जय श्री कृष्ण. सब वैष्णवों को सब प्रेम सादर जय श्री कृष्ण. जय जय श्री राधे.